Welcome to the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast with psychologist Dr. Doreen Downing. Listen in as Doreen interviews people who felt they didn't have a voice or who suffered extreme speaking anxiety. You'll hear stories about how they struggled to speak up, what they did to find their authentic voice, and the confidence they now feel to speak up and make an impact. If you want to get started right away to find your voice, download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. And now, here is Doreen.
Hi, this is Dr. Doreen Downing, and I am host of the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast. I invite guests to share life stories about how they didn't have a voice and what was the journey that they took to find it. And in sharing journeys, these life journeys, I feel like we get to learn more about what it takes to be more of ourselves in this world. I mean, this world is not necessarily an easy one to navigate. And especially when people have challenges, it becomes even more difficult. So today I am so excited. Sheldon, you are from Canada, and we get to talk to you all the way down here in California. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. I really appreciate you asking me to be here.
Yes, well, I know you have a story, and it's there's a wonderful bio you sent me, but basically I just know that it has something to do with your physical disability called, and you will help me with the you tell me the name. How do I say it?
Arthrogryposis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But just to inform the listeners right away, it causes muscle atrophy and contractions at most joints and leaves him unable to crawl. And as a child, doctors believed he would never walk. And as a child, he had braces on both legs and a bar between both shoes. And by sliding along the wall, Sheldon learned to walk, and he had to sit on his bottom and bop his way down the stairs. Now, that visual, Sheldon, is so powerful because that immediately shows people that you came from a situation of total, which isn't total, but really not like any of us who are born in a natural sort of way. We're walking around. You were challenged, and I'm laughing, not laughing, but I'm excited. I'm smiling because you're just really got to be an inspiration for what it takes to grow up in a world like this and find your voice. And now being, I don't know, just all of your great accomplishments. And there's so many here that you've included. You were in a documentary, Dale Carnegie Human Relations Award. 7 years you were on Stella's Circle Inclusion Choir, and you're currently vice president of education at an online Toastmasters. It just you take my breath away, my dear. So let's just launch into a little bit now more. You came into this world, you showed us, I just read what that situation was like. So emotionally, tell us more about what that was for you growing up.
Well, thank you for such a lovely introduction there. Yeah, I was born with a physical disability called arthrogryposis, which does affect my muscles and joints and ligaments. I'm physically unable to raise my arms any higher than right here. This is as high as my arms will go. So when I was younger, the doctor gave me surgery on my arms because I was born with two straight arms. Like, I have no bicep muscles. It's not that they're not built up, I have no bicep muscles. So the doctor gave me surgery when I was like 3 years old on my right arm, to always be bent because I cannot straighten that arm. Because so that I'd be able to brush my teeth, wash my face, eat my meals, whatever, and keep the other arm straight so that I'd be able to open the door, carry bags of groceries, whatever. So being the only person who lived in a very small town of only 300 people, I was the only person there with a physical disability.
Mhm.
And it was in the 1970s, before people were more open-minded than what they currently are. The way people looked at things back then is, if you had a disability, then you couldn't do anything.
Yes.
That's the way it was in small town, especially in small town where I'm from, Newfoundland, Canada. But I believe it's the same in all small towns. And they have no brothers and no sisters to support me or to help me out with anything. I had to be independent. It wasn't only my disability; it was also the fact that my father was an alcoholic, and
Oh,
he used to come drunk quite often and take his he used to take advantage of my mother um, sexually. And I could hear her crying out in her bedroom. It was more than a few times I actually went out to stop him. And he would just throw me against the wall. And most often in my entire childhood, I would hear my father saying, "Oh, you'll never be anything besides a disabled welfare fund. I would be better off if you were never born." Yeah, he would say it. He would actually say it, a different tone of voice than that, but
yeah. Yeah.
um,
An aggressive one, and one filled with disdain, it feels like, as I listen to you. And especially with alcohol, that brings out some meanness in people.
yes, yes. And my mother, because she didn't feel like she had any control in her relationship, she would take her frustrations and anger out on me by beating me with the belt, quite often, and making sure that the steel metal part would hit me harder and harder every time. And because I had no brothers and sisters, she would compare me always to my cousins. For example, even if I received 80% on an exam, they got 85. She would beat me, and she would say, "Why can't you be more like them? Why can't you be more like them? Why were you born with a disability?" So that's the kind of way I was treated.
Oh, before we go on, I just want to take that and absorb that in, because it feels like here you are, such a beautiful gift into this world, and they both felt like you were not totally unwanted. And
Mm-hmm.
especially with the disability, if they just took on that they could abuse you, misuse
Mm-hmm.
you, and because of not so that's an example of not being loved,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
isn't it?
It
Oh.
is. It is. It is. So yeah, it's kind of hard to have a vote, and most often in my life growing up, when I'm going through all of that, I heard kids are supposed to be seen and not heard. I mean, I know a lot of people after hearing the same type of thing. Mostly everybody probably. But that's what I've heard more all my life, and anytime I didn't allow myself to have friendships because of the way things were in the family behind closed doors. I was afraid, to saying loose lips and ships. I was afraid to allow myself to have friendships because I was afraid I might slip out the way things were, and it would definitely come back on me when I got home. You know.
Uh-huh.
So I
Yes. Oh,
didn't I didn't really develop communication skills. You know.
totally isolated, it feels like,
Yeah.
in growing up, and socialization is so important. Yeah,
Hmm.
school and education, but it is a place where we learn to how to relate to other people, and you were in a situation where obviously such difference was pretty noticeable,
Right.
and I imagine that people avoided you.
Hmm. They often did. Well, they always did. Always,
Mhm.
yeah, they often did. Because I wasn't nice to be around. I had, because of what I was going through, I wasn't nice to be around because I was being defensive. I was lashing out at people because I didn't have no control in my family relationship. So
Uh-huh.
so I was like, I wasn't probably nice to be friends with.
Well, you know how
You know?
when we grow up, our parents are models of how we
Yeah.
learn to be in the world, and our own behavior is often modeled after them. And with having angry, abusive kind of
Hmm.
people who you're surrounded by, you don't really understand what compassion and love is at first. But you had your journey, you must have learned, because you're out in the world now really
Yes.
sharing something that's going to help people and make a difference. So what was the change for you? What was the transformation? What was the journey?
Well, the journey was, I was 18 years old when I was forced out of my hometown. My mother said, "You can't live with us anymore. You're coming home drunk all the time." I started having double addictions. Actually, I was a big time alcoholic, and I was also into drugs. That's what I used as my escape. That's what I used as my way to numb the mental pain
Yeah.
of what I stuff I dealt with in my childhood. So I moved to another town to go to college actually, and I lived there for about 7 years. And I don't remember 6 days. I don't remember people talking about blackouts for a couple hours. I had a 6 year, 7 year blackout. I don't remember being there. But
But
I
you
managed
went to
to.
school.
Yeah, I went to actually two different colleges, and I
Uh,
graduated with honors in both of those. And
yeah.
I don't even remember being in class.
Wow. And here you are, a full-blown alcoholic, going to school and getting
Yeah,
honors.
yeah.
That
And
says something about your brain, my dear, huh?
I ran into, yes, it does. I ran into one of the instructors, professors years later, and I said, "Did you like feel pity on me? Did you just give me the grades?"
Oh,
And they said, "No. What it was is that yes, every time you came into school, you were probably hungover or what, or and day you left school, you go straight to the club, to the bar, but." As you always had your book open in front of you.
uh-huh.
As the alcohol was going in, the knowledge was, even if it was only long enough for me to stay there to write an exam the next day. And so they said, no, you always had your books open.
Mhm.
So that's how I managed to get through college, and
Yeah.
so I managed to survive through that, still on my own, still struggling, and there's either I stay in that place and drink myself to death, or I get a way to get to the capital city of the province where I'm living, where's the addiction treatment centers, and actually my mother was living here, so I I actually had to walk the entire distance because I didn't drive myself, and I didn't have no money for transportation because I was after living on the streets. I was after eating donuts off sidewalks, and so it was a struggle. It was a part of my journey,
Yeah.
and but I always had hope. I always had hope. I always knew that I had to be here for a reason. There's a
Oh,
reason why I'm here. I wasn't just born to be tortured. I wasn't just, there's a purpose for me to be here. And
nice.
I
I like
discovered what it was. So,
I like hearing that there was an inner voice, because that's what we're talking about today is voice. And there's something that you carried inside of you that sounds like it was a voice that
mhm.
spoke to you about hope.
Yes, there's always hope. You gotta have hope. I believe you gotta have hope. Because people say, "What do you have without hope?" And it's like, well, I discovered the answer. The answer to what do you have without hope is nothing. You have nothing without hope.
Yeah.
So I always tried my best, even when I was sleeping in the ditches, even when I was sleeping in the ditch and using a rock as a pillow. Um, I managed to still say, "Tomorrow's going to be a better day. Tomorrow, there's something something's going to be good soon someday." So I just always kept it inside me, and that's what I used as my inner voice to help me through today to have my outer voice.
Great. I'm so glad that hope was a voice that spurred you forward and kept you going. What would you say was maybe, I don't know, it might not have been a moment as such, but you actually got through
Mhm.
the alcoholism and, started recovery, I guess you might call
Mhm.
it, or change towards some transformation to who you are today. What
Right.
what was the beginning of that, do you think?
Well, the beginning, well, the exact beginning.
Well, I'm not sure
Yeah.
it's like one day, but maybe it was. Some people have a aha moment, but sometimes it's a process.
Right, right. It was, to me, it was just a gradually building process. Like, I got so tired of just going to the clubs and the bar and like ordering drinks, and just there's been times of just pushing it back. I don't want it. I need it. I don't want it. I need it. I don't want it. I need it. To the bartender, it's like, are you going? You've got to pay for it. Are you going to drink it, or are you just going to leave it there? You know. But so that was the beginning. Is like, it just came to the point that I was actually, when I moved to the bigger city, and I went to the addiction treatment center. It was more than just addiction treatment center. It was actually a life skills component to it as well, where it help you feel self-esteem, self-confidence, get better, feel better about yourself, and then overcome past traumas. And
Mhm.
so I went there, and it was, hmm, where was I going? See, Hmm. I got my story all figured out in my head, and I wanted to tell you today that it's always possible to keep going forward, because keeping on walking is what led me through that trauma program, to know that I was supposed to go to an addiction treatment center across the province to another place. Actually, it was a living just um, alcohol addiction treatment. The bus came to my door to pick me up, and I canceled my appointment. I canceled my appointment. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go.
Uh-huh.
And then 3 months later, I scheduled again, and this time I was going to cancel again, but a bright light flashed through my bedroom window. Through my bedroom, a whole bedroom just lit right up. And the song by the Beatles, "Let It Be," came on the radio. My radio was not, even this is all these years later, over 20 years later, I still say my radio was not plugged in. My radio was not plugged in, and the song "Let It Be" by the Beatles came out.
Oh, oh,
Let it be, there will be an answer.
yeah,
Then I was
miracle. You're talking miracles, aren't you?
that was at the same time that was at the same time that the bright light flashed through my window. You
Uh-huh.
know, um,
Finally, your time.
yeah.
Wow.
The bus showed up, and I haven't been drinking. I haven't been back to my addictions since.
Uh-huh.
So I continued on with the, the the program, the life skills program, and years afterwards, I received a phone call. Sheldon, we're having our annual general meeting. How would you like to come and give a talk? Come to a talk. What am I going to talk about? I didn't know to talk about. And they were like, well, you all the struggle that you've been through in your life, and you see, even though you're not exactly where you want to be right now, you're after coming so far that you definitely got a story to share.
Yeah.
So that's my first ever public speaking. A standing ovation. I got a double standing ovation. People, and everybody approached me afterwards, telling me how much they appreciated what I had to say. Then two people actually approached me and said that they were going to actually commit suicide before they actually heard my talk. No, not two people at the same time, but and so I actually saved two lives that day,
Mhm.
through my story, and that gave me the motivation and the desire to keep going.
So your voice now, I loved what you said a few minutes ago, which is part of, the kind of idea of walking. And when you entered in this world as a child, not able to walk, and then what you did with the braces, and and today the walking feels like it comes through in the talking
Mhm.
and your voice. And so thank you for being willing to share all those details and to help us see what a major transformation you have gone through, and that first time when you stood up to speak, and even though you weren't as fully developed as you are now around what you offer, it feels like the universe, or you got the message. People are impacted by your life story.
Yeah.
So today, what are you doing? Speaking, and how do people find you? What
Right,
are
right.
you up to nowadays?
Well, I've done quite a few speaking gigs since then, and I've written a book actually and published it. And funny enough, the name of my book is Keep On Walking, a
Yeah.
transformative and inspirational journey.
Yes.
So it's really coincidence that that's the kind of things that we're talking about. And there's more than one reason why it's called Keep On Walking. One part of it was because the doctors told me I proved the doctors wrong, because the doctors said I might never be able to walk on my own. But another thing is the figurative way of saying, well, I mean, I'm not able to climb a mountain, but I'm able to walk around a mountain, or or just to keep on walking. The only way to get through any troubles is to go through them.
Yes. What a message. What a message. And I like that it's not necessarily, well, this is how you do it. It's more about what I get from you. It's a deeper kind of message around a belief that, whatever it takes, you can.
We're not given more than what we can handle. That's what I believe. We're not given more than what we can handle. We might not know how to handle it right now, but everybody handles things differently.
Yes.
So I'm not one to profess, oh, take this step and this step and do this. That might work for me, but it might not work for you. So I mean, there's no set rules to say this is what you need to do in order to get where you want to go.
Yes, that is such a profound and lovely way to say it, I think, and that people who are listening today, it's like, oh, it's something about believing in what we can do, not necessarily we got to go out and do it this way.
Right.
And so I get that from you. Thank you for sharing here today. How do people find you? What's the
People find me through, well, my website is currently being redesigned, so it's not very available, but I'm on every social platform. You can find me Sheldon Crocker on Facebook. You can email me at sheldonscrocker@gmail.com. So that's a few different ways.
And we'll have all those links in our show notes, and people will be able to get a link to your book also, I'm sure. Keep On Walking. It must be on Amazon.
It is on Amazon.
Great. Okay, that's another way that people can learn more about you and how to connect.
It's actually on special. It's on a big time special right now, so I got the price lower, and I also got actually teaching a course as well. I got an online course available that on mastermind.com. So you find my name and you find that platform, you can find my program.
Look at you grow. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sheldon, for taking time to come on today and give a lot of hope to those who are listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today for this episode of Find Your Voice, Change Your Life. Each person during interviews shares what has helped them find their voice. You can learn from these guests and find your voice so you can be confident to speak up and speak out. And remember to download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. We hope you enjoyed the show and will return next time. Until then, goodbye for now.